Hello everyone, Friendly Neighborhood Gaming Weasel finally back with this video. I have uploaded this video a couple of weeks back and it didn't work. Something, I don't know what happened, but YouTube cut my video short. But you guys don't want to get into that. You guys want to get into the nitty gritty of the top 5. Well, before we actually start, a like, a comment, and subscribe would be greatly appreciated by me, of course, and a couple of little things. Well, first things first, I will be using the Proboscis Cernos, the Kuva Nucor, and the Tenant Gregory as my primary, secondary, and melee of choice. Some Warframes would be much better to use different weapons, preferably the primary and or melee weapon, but just for the consistency of the video, I used these weapons. I will be equipping no Smira Kavat or anything. I will be equipping it now because I'm not going to be recording it right now. But to keep the consistency, because she can give you random buffs and stuff like that, so we don't want that to influence our gameplay. And that is it. No 4 Warframes are buffed in any sort of way. The builds that I show on the screen are my builds. If you do not like them, you don't have to use them. That's pretty much plain and simple. The top 5 is made as a top 5, so all 5 Warframes are incredibly or decent or really good to have inside of the Steel Path. And yeah, basically that is it. Let's go on into the top 5. And at number 5, we of course have my personal favorite Warframe inside of the game. It is going to be Harrow or Harrow Prime, depending on which one you have. Now, the Proboscis Cernos is not the best weapon for Harrow, that is for sure. The build looks something like this. It is a zero forma build. Copy it if you want, and you don't need to, of course. Harrow is an incredibly good Warframe and or solo Warframe. He has loads of overshields, he has a decent assortment of health, he can heal himself, he can regenerate shields, he can ensnare enemies with his first ability, he can regenerate him and his team's energy with his third thurible, and he can also increase his critical chance. 50% critical chance on the body and 250% maximum on the head on the enemies. Lasting Covenant is an interesting augment to use on this Warframe, but in Steel Path I do not use it because my 4th ability is my get out of jail free card. And now this Warframe is a decently good. I wouldn't say he's the best for Steel Path. What I love doing with him is picking up the Bubonico, for example, picking up that weapon, or the Kuvazar, going inside of a corner and literally bombing the hell out of the enemies. When the Acolyte appears, I just, for example, with my Kuvazar, switch to the shotgun mode, activate my 4th ability, get my increased critical chance, ensnare him with my 1st ability, and basically I just fuck him up in like 3 shots. So basically that is it. That is how I would use my Harrow. So pretty decent Warframe, pretty good Warframe. You can, as I said, regenerate shields, increase your rate of fire and reload speed as well, and attack speed. I forgot to mention that. So this Warframe is very, very decent inside of Steel Path. So if you possibly can, get to use him. Moving on to number 4. Moving on to number 4, and at number 4 we have our tough boy for Steel Path. It is, of course, Revenant. Revenant is a very interesting and fun Warframe to play. Basically, all you need to do with Harrow is, but Revenant, all you need to basically do is turn on your 2nd ability and then basically take no damage for the damage, I guess, mesmer skins that you have. Status effects cannot affect you because they are reflected back, so is the attack of the enemies. Any enemy that tries to attack you will basically get stunned, and also he has a cool ability where he can enthrall enemies, make them his minions, and they will start shooting their allies. Every time one of them is killed, you will get like a sort of a pillar of energy that will transform other enemies that walk into it into more thralls, and basically continuing that cycle. This does help out because less guns shooting you is less mesmer skins used. The build looks something like this, so you can check it out on the screen right now. I do have Rumble mods, yes, but you can go without them without any issue. Power strength is very important because of the mesmer skin count. One other thing is third ability is very good as well. You will leech off shields and health off of enemies. The percentages are increased if you go through enthralled enemies as well, because there's a difference, I think, around 32% a difference between I guess going through ordinary enemies and or enthralled enemies, and considering in Steel Path you have a lot of enemies anyway, you're going to be getting a lot of shields and health back from that. His fourth ability, Dancing Macabre, is an okay ability. I wouldn't really use it that much. That's why on my config B I have changed it out. I have changed it out for Roar, because Dance Macabre is an awesome ability, but it drains a lot of energy with the build I'm running, so I do not use it. But nonetheless, Hero, I keep mentioning Hero, but Revenant is a very, very difficult motherfucker to kill, and yeah. Always keep an eye out on your mesmer skins just so you don't lose them and die, because that will happen. So that was Revenant. Moving on to number 3. And at number 3 we have, of course, our monk slash pacifist boy Barduch. Barduch is an extremely fun and maybe a little bit broken Warframe to play. I will be showing the build right away. Here you go. And also for his Desolate Hands as well, or Desert Wind I think is the melee weapon called. You're gonna see it on screen anyway, so yeah. Very, very good Warframe, very fun to play, very survivable for some odd reason. I don't have the best build on him yet, because honestly I've been leveling up him up I think once or twice in the past couple of days, and yeah, it was once, and I honestly couldn't be bothered to level him up more, but definitely I could change up the build a little bit. His first ability basically allows you to dodge any projectiles or incoming damage in a certain radius, so for example not 360 degrees, but let's say 270 depending on your power strength. Your second ability will basically put enemies to sleep. His third ability will activate the daggers that will float around him, attack enemies, and of course reduce your damage up to 90%. And his Desolate Hands, which is his fourth ability, can be activated once you bring down his restraint meter, which you do by activating the first 3 abilities. The more enemies there are, basically, the more you're gonna reduce that restraint meter. And as you can see by the damage numbers on screen, god dang hell is it good to kill with Barduch. I love using him. I am using the Nira's sort of mod set. I'm missing out one mod which increases slam damage by 300%. Which makes it really fun to slam attack, but his attacks and his damage numbers are completely insane. I love playing him. I love the moves that he does. He looks pretty cool as well. As a Warframe, I would prefer maybe some different skins on him by now. I really would like a Barduch deluxe skin. I would buy that instantly, and I wouldn't stop playing Barduch. But nonetheless, he is a very fun and very useful, very destructive Warframe when you get that restraint meter down at least a little bit. So that was Barduch. Moving on to number 2. And at number 2 we have our little mutant boy. It is of course Nidus or Nidus Prime. I've mentioned Nidus in one of my videos. I made a special video for him because I think he is so good inside of Steel Path. A critical weapon would be very, very good on him, because on the screen right now you can see the build, and we have the Teeming Virulence Augment, which increases your critical chance by 120%. I cannot speak. And of course it stacks up, at least on my build, to 315% critical chance. And goddamn, is this weapon good. Is this Warframe really good with the Tenant Envoy. It can decimate the Acolyte in 1, 2, 3 shots maximum if you aim them correctly. It is a decimating Warframe. You, of course, with your first ability, you build up stacks. You have these certain stacks that you build up by damaging enemies with your first ability. What I usually do, and what you will see on the gameplay, I use my second ability, Larva, which drags enemies in. I use my first ability, which damages the enemies, of course. It does damage, and it does scaling damage, so the more stacks you have, the more damage it does. It does give you a certain percentage of your energy back as well. And usually it would give you more than you spent, a decent sum more than you spent as well, so you don't have to worry about that. The third ability, Parasitic Link, if you link yourself to an ally, they will gain have an increased power strength, and if you link it to an enemy, you will have a damage reduction, I think, of 60%, maybe I'm wrong here. which you will get a small little damage reduction, which is very, very good. His fourth ability basically summons maggots inside of the grass, or a grass field with maggots basically, which attack enemies, and the grass, magical grass, heals you, and paired that with parasitic link, and literally you are unkillable by anything inside of the game. Having the teeming virulence augment means that you're gonna kill everything that is basically coming at you. And of course, forgot to say that the fourth ability, when the ability runs out, the glare of grass fields, or exactly, to speak exactly, the maggots explode on the enemies and they kill them, because of course the damage of your fourth ability also scales with the the mutation stacks that you have. And basically what else I wanted to say is, if you get critical damage, you will get 50% of your health back, and you will sacrifice, I think it is 5 stacks to revive yourself back. So, or 10, I think. I'm pretty sure it's 10, but I'm not sure. Maybe 15. I'll leave it on the screen maybe, so you will know. But that was Nidus. Moving on to number 1. And at number 1, we of course have our singing and musical Warframe. It is Octavia / Octavia Prime. This Warframe is basically sit in one spot, at least gather up energy if nothing else, and basically activate all 4 of your abilities and just sit down and relax. If you're wondering in which order I activate mine inside of Steel Path, it is Metronome, so I can go invisible as fast as I possibly can. Metronome is an ability that grants you a buff depending on what you do, timed to the music that is playing on the ground. You will see those little circles coming towards you, and then, for example, if you jump, you will get a speed buff. If you crouch, you will of course get the nocturne buff, which will make you invisible. If you fire in the rhythm, you're gonna get a multi-shot buff, and if you swing your melee weapon, you're gonna get a melee damage bonus. So that is very cool. Then I usually cast Amp, which draws power from the decibel level, so the louder it is, the higher the damage buff is going to be. It also doubles the damage range of nearby mallets, so that is very, very cool. That it increases it by 200%, the rage and damage as well, so keep that in mind. And of course, the louder it is a scenario, the more enemies and more everything, the higher that damage percentage is going to go. Then I cast my mallet, of course, which draws in an enemy fire, and the more damage they inflict, the more the damage of the mallet increases. And this ability is something that literally decimates enemies, because of course, if you're shooting at something, and there's a lot of enemies in Steel Path that are going to be shooting this thing, the damage is going to grow exponentially fast, and this thing will decimate enemies. Now to Acolytes, it's a little bit less of a threat, but it's still a good ability nonetheless. And then last but not least, Resonator. Basically what it does is, it is a little ball that carries around the mallet, and it also does some damage per, I guess, beat. It has a certain range as well, and it's a pretty cool ability. You don't honestly have to use it that much. The enemies follow the Resonator, which basically means they're going to be shooting the mallet, which basically means they're going to be doing more damage to themselves. They do have a little stagger effect on enemies as well, so that is pretty cool. But basically, if you want to just sit around and do nothing inside a Steel Path except move around every couple of seconds and crouch every couple of seconds as well and collect some energy, there you go, this is it. But be sure to carry a decent weapon with you, because this will not kill Acolytes that efficiently, or at least mine didn't. Maybe my build is just wrong, which you saw a little bit earlier on, so maybe that is something to keep in mind. But thank you guys so much for watching. This was much shorter than I would rather want it to be, but I don't want YouTube to cut my video short again, and I want to spew out content for you guys because I love you guys, and I made this video before, so I have to redo it now, and I'm quite pissed. But thank you guys so much for watching. A like, a comment, and subscribe would be greatly appreciated for my fellow weasels, and I will see you guys on the next one. The Gaming Weasel is over and out.